Welcome back, guys, to the Butterfly Season podcast. I just interviewed one of my dearest friends, Kelly Kussman. She is founder of Cayla Gray, and we've talked about meth, psychics, and like business, gut feelings, intuition, all of the things. It's a really good episode, and I just can't wait for you guys to tune in. Oh my gosh, Kelly, thank you so much for being here with me today. My inaugural IRL podcast gal. I wouldn't want to do it with anyone else but you.
I'm so honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm going to jump right into it.
Okay.
So I don't even remember how we even got on the topic of psychics, anything like that. Yeah. But I shared with you that I saw a psychic. Mm-hmm. She was great. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, give me her contact information. And I think you literally saw her the next day.
I did.
So had you seen a psychic before?
No, and it's not something I would normally do. So I'm like naturally really curious.
Yeah.
And so like I kind of want to try everything in life once.
Yeah.
And just kind of see what happens.
Drugs
and what
included.
comes from it. I mean, why not?
Okay.
You know, let's just try everything.
Like heroin, meth. I just want to try it once.
Let's take a few steps back,
Okay.
Aisha. Okay, like not everything. But yeah, I remember you and a couple of the other girls were talking about the psychic, and I was like, huh, interesting. And then I'm like, oh, hey, do you want to give me that contact info? Literally went the next day.
Yeah,
I mean, the fact that she was just open, I was like, okay.
I told you, if you text her, she will say, come tomorrow.
I guess I'm doing this. And so drove to like a random neighborhood in Phoenix. And yeah, it was a mind-blowing experience for sure.
I know the experience loosely, but can you share with the audience your experience?
Yeah. So I've never been to psychic or anything like that before. So just going in, I had no idea what to expect.
Yeah.
And this woman was just like, I felt so like safe and calm just being in her presence first was really interesting for me. And then she like literally the first thing she said and looked at me and she was just like, you are one of the most intuitive people that I have ever come across. And she said, and before we even start, she said two things to me. She said, one, you are someone, she goes, there's people in life who see life as glass half full. And she said, you see life as literally glass overflowing with the full. She goes, don't ever lose that. And then the second thing she said to me was, your gut feeling is always, always right. Always. She goes, you need to make sure you go back and listen to that gut all the time.
So how did you feel about that with the gut feeling? I feel like, and I'm asking you this because we've had conversations where you're like, I just knew. Like anytime you tell me something, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do it my own way. And then I hear you, Aisha, you have to just, I already know. How did you feel? Did that feel like affirmation? What did that feel like?
Definitely affirmation. I would say throughout my life, like I feel like I've always known like what the right direction is or the right people are or the right friendships, right relationships, right business transactions, like all of it. Like I always feel like I know, but I feel like I spent my life looking for confirmation of the knowing and tripping over myself and making a lot of mistakes, looking for that confirmation, making a lot of like financial mistakes, relationship mistakes, literally tripping over myself because I didn't listen to my gut.
What type of confirmation do you think you were looking for?
Almost like, okay, that's my gut feeling, but I want to be either proved wrong or just prove it to me, period. Or like a lot of times like my gut feeling will tell me I already know the answer to something.
You're like, okay, but like you tell me though.
But like, wait, I need to like pay somebody to tell me that answer. Like sometimes I feel like I don't have the experience or the knowledge in the thing that I'm looking for the answer in. And sometimes I feel like I need to like maybe hire an expert or something like that to like gut check my gut feeling.
Yeah.
It's and so it was cool to get, affirmation and confirmation that no, you're good.
Yeah.
Go with that gut feeling.
I mean, it makes so much sense, right? Like it might be like, let's just say entrepreneurship, for example, right? Like you have made like a name for yourself in the corporate world and you get into entrepreneurship. It might feel like, or did it feel like my gut doesn't feel qualified to know this answer. So let me find someone to maybe confirm my gut.
That was probably the biggest thing that I stumbled in a lot with entrepreneurship because I had spent 20 years building my corporate career.
Yeah.
Literally started from the bottom, and every single year was working so hard to get to that next level, to get the promotion, to get the accolade, to get, the increased income, like all of the different things. And like, I knew it like the back of my hand. I was a mentor to people. I had teams of like, tens of thousands of people within vendors and stores and all of these different people underneath me. I was managing $2 billion of business, a $2 billion business portfolio. Okay. So like it happened that way because of my gut, because I was always following my gut instinct with somebody else's company. And my gut was never wrong. Yeah. Like whether it came to vendors or whether it came to hiring or, it came to like different opportunities that I kind of wanted to go after and go seek. And then I decided to leave corporate, start my own business. And I felt so lost and overwhelmed with all of the different things that I felt I didn't know. Right. And like my husband, Gabe, would always tell me like, Kelly, you know this. Like, why are you second guessing yourself? Why is your confidence not at the level that it was when you were back managing large teams of business?
Right.
So I spent a lot of time hiring people that I thought I needed to hire to give me the answers that I already knew within me. And so I got into relationships, like business relationships, even some friendships with people that I thought I needed them to, help, whether it was help like increase my confidence or just make me feel like I'm doing the right thing or going in the right direction or, whatever, financial decisions, like all of the things that you do as an entrepreneur that you don't know until you're in the middle of it. Yeah, I spent a lot of time, money, and effort hiring people because I just didn't have the confidence that I did when I was in a corporate job.
Yeah. So with the corporate confidence that you had, what was the feeling? Like, where did you feel it? You call it gut feeling. I have different feelings in my body. When I feel anxious, it's more like chest area. When I feel nervous, it's like deep gut. When I feel like I'm going to cry, it's throat. So like, I know those. I'm learning them much better now to tell the difference. But for you, when your gut tells you something, we're calling it gut. But like, what does it feel like?
It usually feels like a calming to me. A calming and then like a nudge to ask more questions is typically where, when I was in the corporate world, it was revealed to me that things needed to be investigated a little bit more or were going in the wrong direction. And so like an example would be like, we have a huge strategy coming up and, my team's, presenting to me all of the different steps that they're wanting to do in order to hit these goals. And like, there's just something that feels a little off. So it's kind of like, there's a little butterfly in my stomach and it's prompting me to ask to go deeper within that.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's a vendor that's come to us with this incredible, like new invention, new innovative idea. And something in my gut's like, like they don't have their operations ready to scale to our level. And so it would just be like, it's hard. It's kind of hard to explain. It was just like this knowing that I needed to dive in a little bit further to make sure that everything was good. And I feel like when I moved to entrepreneurship, I feel like it all went out the window because I felt like I didn't know, but I did.
So what was it, do you think? Was it like the title behind the gut that made you feel like, this is fine, who cares? And then once that's removed, it's like, well, gut, you're probably not right. It was the title that was the compass.
For me, it was, I was getting so many accolades, so much recognition, increases in salary every single year. I was constantly, every single week, getting feedback from, my CEO, my, SVPs that I was going and heading in the right direction. And then all of a sudden I went to an entrepreneurship job, position, whatever you want to call it. And like all of that went away and it was just me and left with my gut feeling. And I was kind of like, okay.
It's a little lonely here.
It was so
it was me the whole time. What do you mean?
So lonely. I had no idea what the heck I was doing in my head. I had no idea what I was doing. But yet I spent 20 years building other people's brands. You know what I mean? Like I was lacking confidence. I didn't know that it was already within me. So it took a lot of trial and error to know that it was already there.
Okay, so now we're in entrepreneurship land and we're feeling like we're like unsure and all of the things. Do you feel like your gut wasn't speaking as loudly? Like when I started to get like really deep into my spirituality, I've always felt like I've had intuition and like sometimes like a knowing that I'm like, I can't tell you how I know this, I just know. And sometimes when I would tell my husband, Cam, he'd be like, you're being a hater. I'm like, I don't really think I'm being a hater here. I can really feel. And he's like, okay. And then months down the line, I'm like, was I a hater or was I right? You know?
Yes.
But when I was feeling like I'm being a hater, I almost felt like I was like doubting my gut. And then it wasn't as loud anymore. But when I would just honor it and be like, I'm not being a hater, this just doesn't feel right. And so I'm just not going to move forward with it. I felt like it was louder and more right a lot more quickly. What was that transition like? Did you feel like your gut was still 10 out of 10 loud? It was just you deciding to not choose to listen to it? Or what was that like for you?
You hit it exactly. Like my gut was screaming loud at me. Like, no, this isn't the right person. No, this isn't the right opportunity. But I wasn't listening to it. When you jump into something new, and especially with entrepreneurship, and especially in a city like Phoenix, where there's so many different entrepreneurs, everybody's got their own business. I feel like here, everybody's doing their own thing
in the best way. I love it, but it's like infested.
Agreed, 100%. And so here I am, like not listening to my gut because I'm listening to everybody else's thoughts and opinions and ideas and what I should be doing and what I shouldn't be doing.
Because you know what? It's different in that corporate, I feel like, and no offense to anyone who's in corporate listening, but it just feels like fall in line. Yeah. Like everyone's just head down, do what they're going to do. Like entrepreneurship land, everyone has something to say and they want you to hear what they have to say and something to sell and they want you to buy what they're selling. Like, so it's just like a lot more noise maybe?
Mm-hmm. There's a lot more noise. And I feel like you said, everybody's trying to sell something, it felt like. And
anything,
everything. Guys, there's somebody out there for everything. And there are some really incredible businesses and incredible people. But I think it was so much at once that I didn't realize how much a lot of times you go to somebody for like a thought, an opinion, an answer to something. And a lot of times I found that I would have more experience in the people that I was asking and my gut was telling me something different, but I just felt like, well, they've been an entrepreneur for years. You know what I mean?
So they've accolade.
Like they've been doing this, like they know better. And like at the end of the day, your gut feeling, especially when it comes to like your business, is always going to be right.
Yeah.
It's always going to be right. If you're listening to all of the things that other people are doing, you're never going to be the one that stands out from the crowd.
Right.
And a lot of times, like the opinions and thoughts that people are giving you are kind of based on things that they have experienced, which is completely different than the things that you're experiencing. So there may be projections happening in there. There may be, opinions, or like a lot of times I would find that people would form opinions of other people or other different like tactics that may or may not have worked. And like, yes, it may or might not have worked for you, but my gut's telling me it's something that I need to go down and kind of experience for myself, or it's someone that I should sit down and talk to and have a conversation with and really feel for myself, like whether or not this person is the right fit for me and my company.
Yeah.
And so it took me a while, but tuning out all of the noise really helped me hear the gut that was screaming so loudly at me.
So I think I love that you bring that up around projections. There are so many, what I'm realizing, there are so many conversations that are happening under the table that aren't actually happening like in this reality, with, past traumas or past experiences or whatever they've experienced, and when someone's giving you advice, they unknowingly bring all of that into this answer for you. You said quiet the noise. What did you do? What is quieting the noise?
For me, I take alone trips twice a year, and I really develop like my strategy, and like I allow myself quiet alone without like social media, without like just I don't even talk to people for these couple of days. Even my husband, I'll text him like, hey bud, love you, go to bed, kind of a thing. But
he's like, this feels like a dirtbag trip. Like
I'm leaving you for a few days. Don't worry about it. It's all going to be fine. But I escape. I go somewhere in nature, like just by myself for like 3 to 4 days. And I sit down and I'm kind of crazy, controlling type A. So I literally write out like what that strategy is going to look like for the next 6 months or the next year. And then I come back to it the next morning and I just sit with it and I walk and I think, and, I just do exercises that help me like really quiet everything around me so that I can hear what my gut is trying to tell me.
Yeah.
And every single time, the things that I get from those trips are always the things that are successful versus the things that other people's opinions or thoughts are kind of giving me, and the advice that they're giving me. Not to say that there aren't people out there that have beautiful advice. I have mentors that I look to all of the time to gut check the really big, huge strategy things that, I'm wanting to do. But the little day-to-day things, like you got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is one of the things that have come up in a solo trip that was like wildly successful?
So kind of like digging in and finding areas of business that I could. So basically, like my brand collaborations was kind of a dream that kind of came up on one of these trips, and so I was trying to figure out a way to get my brand more exposure to other people's audiences, but also like paying it forward with that other brand as well. So as a small business, when you're starting out, like you don't want to like spend all of your money on all these different marketing tactics, whether it's ads or whether it's influencers and things like
Especially
that.
in the online space. It's just
it's
so noisy and hard.
And beauty.
Yeah.
I mean, the beauty space, right? Like the people I'm competing with have $1 billion budgets.
Oh, yeah. And then on top of that, everyone's selling, build your e-commerce, just white label like it's a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot.
And so for me, I built my audience very organically over the last 2 years. And I knew that if I wanted to continue to build my brand in an authentic, organic way, it was going to be to collaborate with like really kick-ass business owners. And by me creating like a scent experience for their brand that literally connects them back to the memories that they're making within that brand activation or brand experience. And so that whole idea came up to me when I was taking a walk through some woods one day.
Yeah.
Came back down, like literally wrote out an entire pitch deck and started pitching people. And so that's been something that's been really beautiful is I've found some really incredible people to collaborate with to give them a really beautiful experience while also expanding my brand to an audience that I didn't have before.
I love that. So, okay, talk to me about, we said you have some mentors that you wildly love and respect. I've had mentors where I think when I didn't have a strong, I don't know, not sense of self, but trust maybe in myself. And I would go to mentors and blindly listen, not that they weren't qualified, but I would just feel like if they said something that felt way different than what I said, I would abandon
what you said,
what I said, what I thought, or anything, because I felt like I trust this person blindly. When we're all just like humans, has there been a time where you've trusted someone blindly and it not been the right thing? Or how do you reconcile if your gut's saying something different than your mentor is saying?
So that happens a lot, I would say. I think, again, mentors come from their perspective and the things that they've experienced within their lives. And so if I come with like a big strategy or a thought, or I ask someone to kind of take a look at something and they come back to me with like their opinions and thoughts on something, you just have to listen to your gut. Like, you really know, like this feels good or this doesn't feel good. I've had people come to me like with a new idea about like the brand and like what the brand should like stand for and be. And after hearing the thought about what they felt that the brand should stand for, it was like an immediate gut. Absolutely
that
not.
That happens to me all the time.
Absolutely not. Like,
and
no.
I'm like, is it my ego?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and sometimes it is.
Yeah.
I mean, for sure. Sometimes we all have egos.
Yes.
Sometimes we have really big egos.
Yeah.
And sometimes they trip us up. I mean, it's for sure happened to me. But like, if you put the ego aside a little bit, like, you know if this is the right direction for your brand or not. And sometimes there's shiny objects, and there's a lot of shiny objects in the entrepreneur space, the coaching space, all of it, mentor space. There's a lot of shiny things that people kind of go after. There's always the hot person for a minute or for two, and then things change and kind of evolve. Right. And I think the best way to grow a business is to be steady and consistent. And to not constantly be chasing after all the different shiny things. And so for my mentors, like, there's, I would say 50-50, 50% of the time, I try and test a method that they're offering or suggesting. 50% of the time, I'm like, nope, not it. It just depends.
I love that. Okay. So this got us on a really beautiful tangent, but psychic.
Yes, psychic.
So that was when you walked in the door.
Yeah.
She said intuition, all of the things.
Mm-hmm.
What else came up in that session that was like maybe confirmation, mind-blowing?
There were so many things that I feel like that came up in that session. There were people she told me to kind of watch out for, which I thought was interesting. She told me that I was not meant to have children, which was also very interesting because my backstory is, we lost 2 of our babies, and I had been really struggling with whether or not I should continue to like try to have babies, but my gut was telling me no, to just kind of honor and love the ones that you lost, and life is really beautiful. So don't take a moment for granted, kind of a thing. There were just so many different moments that she told me to like things like, go get your thyroid checked. Like, does your right shoulder hurt you right now? And
Did
I
it?
was, yes. It was bizarre. I was like, wait, what? So literally I slept wrong on my shoulder the night before, and it was my right shoulder. It was just crazy. So it's an experience I've never had before. So it was really, really interesting.
Yeah. When I went to her, also I stumbled in. I think if someone were to tell me if someone were to like roll the tapes and they would show my whole experience, I'd be like, no, I'm not doing that. But she had been working with a close friend of mine for like years. And my friend was like, yeah, it's my prayer lady. And I'm like, oh, I'll go see a prayer lady. We could pray. It'll be so great. And she's like, believes in God and all the things. And that's like aligned with me. But like the moment she started doing like magic, I started to get so scared. I got so scared, and she could tell. And she's like, look, I'm good. Like, this isn't. And I started to feel like calm. The calm that you felt after you walked in. I was like, I'm like, is God going to shake me down right now?
Exactly.
Is he just going to be like, you know what? But like, it just goes to show like there's so much more to spirituality, and it's just not like, you know. So I want to talk about, if you're okay with it, codependency.
Mm-hmm.
Is that good? Are you good with that? Okay. And the reason why, like, you know, I'm just triple checking because you're a very close friend of mine, and we talk about like really deep stuff. And so some stuff, like when I got on my codependency journey, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to share this online, right? It's all shared here now, so that's great. But talk to me how you were one of the few people when people would be like, oh, what are you doing? What's going on? You seem different. And I would be like, yeah, I'm just like having some realizations around codependency and this and that. And everyone's like, what is codependency? I didn't even know what it was when it was presented to me. You were literally probably only 2 people that I said codependency, and you're like, oh yeah, I know. It's and I'm like, oh, this feels like, I feel like uncharted territory. Not a lot of people talk about it. It's not like very buzzy, like narcissism or whatever, you know? When did you realize that you had struggled with codependent tendencies?
I think for me, it was in my corporate career.
Really?
I think it was things like getting and needing the accolades. And like, and you've talked about a little bit within your journey, like performatism.
Yeah.
And like, I found that a lot within my corporate journey, and like performing to get the accolade, to get the attention that I needed. It was just, it like fed this cycle.
Yeah. Like for me, I don't know if this is for you, but for me, I would put my value in what I thought you thought of me. Even if it wasn't verbal, but I guess the easiest way because that's like a under the table conversation, right? We're not having the conversation like in this world, but I'm assuming what you think of me, and then that's what my value is. But it's so much easier when there's an accolade to back that thing up, because then it's like you and I both can acknowledge that that's a big deal. And if I have that thing, then presumably you think highly of me, and therefore my value is in your mind backed by this accolade.
I mean, that's 100% it. Like
I've never even explained it like that before. That was like
that's pretty good.
Feels good. That's it. That's codependency in a nutshell, everyone. Okay, we're done.
That's it. But I mean, that is it. Like I didn't realize how much performatism and like getting those accolades it drove me every single day. And I thought those were the things that mattered. And so I kept performing to get the accolade, to get the promotion, to get the bigger book of business, and over and over and over and over again. Like that's what I thought mattered.
Yeah.
And that's the type of attention I thought was healthy attention, like performing and getting it. Like I thought that's what you were just supposed to do. And I'm I'm a Enneagram 3. I know you are too. And it's just like, it's kind of in our nature to do that as well.
It's like that's the real meth.
Yes, it is. It is crack. And I love it so much.
People acknowledging you for your accolades is the real meth, honestly.
It is.
And I've been in rehab for a while. I've been in rehab for a minute. Okay. So I feel like there's 2 competing thoughts now. So we've talked about your corporate journey. We've talked about Cayla Gray and getting into entrepreneurship. And as somebody who struggles with codependency, corporate feeds that ego, right? Because it's like, okay, Kelly's the top this, billion-dollar book of business, decision maker, all of the things. What was it that made you want to take that leap into entrepreneurship? Because there's nothing backing that perception of you.
For me, it was like my entire life changed one day. And I moved to Arizona actually to work for a PetSmart headquarters, and, had worked my way up the chain there, and, was a senior director of sourcing, like literally stood up a domestic sourcing division for the entire company. Like, it was awesome.
And like, that's loving it.
It's a big freaking deal. It was awesome.
Like the only people I know that like work at PetSmart are like the people, like when you go there, they're like, should we train your dog? Right? Like, I'm just like, no, this is like big deal PetSmart. Like, she's not boots on the ground. No offense to anyone that is, but like, it's just so weird when you chat with somebody who's working at a really big corporation that you only experience on the ground level.
Yeah. Like, we were in charge of all of that, and my next step was, VP, and they were prepping me for it. And
oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was the path.
VP of what?
VP of sourcing. Yeah, leading the division for all of sourcing, not just domestic. It would have been everything.
And PetSmart's in every state.
Yeah. There's 2,500 stores, I think, now. Yeah, big.
Wow.
Big business.
So that's like a really big accolade to be like,
I'm
just going to toss this away.
No big deal. No big deal. I just worked 12 years to get there.
Own company from scratch.
My own company. But it was really like, I'd moved to Arizona for PetSmart, met my husband, got married. We started trying to have babies, and I got pregnant in 2017. And then,
oh my gosh. And we met in 2019.
Yeah.
I had no idea that it was like that recent. I thought it was like, maybe like, I don't know, 10 years or so.
Yeah. 5 years ago was really the second. Yeah. So in 2017, we found out we were pregnant. So excited, obviously. And then, things just were a little off. Like, they couldn't find the baby, and they thought, well, maybe it's just the timing was off. Like, maybe it's just like too early, which happens to a lot of women. You just kind of go in too early. Like, you think you're a certain amount of weeks along, and you're not. And so we kept going back and checking on things. And then, one day I remember I was getting my iPhone fixed at this, the iBreak We Fix place or whatever. I was there sitting in the lobby.
iFix. I was there a lot in college. I knew them all.
Oh, I was too in my 30s.
I'm like, I'm back.
Still. I was sitting in the lobby, and I just said, I felt like this crazy sharp pain. It was almost like someone was like stabbing me in the stomach. It was so bizarre. And so like, I called my husband. I was like, I don't know if I can drive home, but I think we need to go to the emergency room. And he was like, okay, just don't go anywhere.
Like that bad. Like, you're that like, bad. I don't know if I can
like doubled over in pain. So I ended up driving home. It's only like a mile away. I get there. Gabe's like, why did you drive home? Like, you're insane. We get in the car, go to the emergency room. We're in the emergency room at Mayo. And then all of a sudden, like, I just felt like this relief. Like, it just stopped. The pain just completely went away. And I looked at Gabe and I said, I think we're fine. I think everything's fine. Maybe I was just having like weird cramping or something like that. I think everything's fine. And he looks at me and he was like, nope, let's just wait a couple more minutes. And I was like, okay. Then the radiology technician comes out and calls my name. We go in the back, do the radiology thing. They put us in a waiting room, like a room. A doctor comes in and he's just like, yeah, it could be something. It could be nothing. Like, we'll just wait in here from radiology. And then all of a sudden a nurse rushes in with a phone. She hands the doctor the phone and he looks at me and he says, oh shit. We need to go to surgery immediately. You're bleeding internally. We need to get you in there within the next minute or you could lose your life. And I'll never forget, I looked at Gabe and like his face completely went white. All of these nurses rushed in, hooked me up to all of these different machines. And like a minute later, I was in surgery. Woke up, obviously we had lost the baby. Like, it was just such a pivotal moment in my life. It woke me up to so much more that like, it took a while. I would say it took, it happened a year later. Again, we had another ruptured ectopic pregnancy in 2018. And after those moments, I just went silent. I went into kind of a deep depression for a while. I had to get on antidepressants just to pull myself out of it. Things just went quiet and still. Gabe and I struggled a little bit, went to a lot of therapy, did EMDR therapy.
There's a lot of the statistics for marriages that have losses. It's like, a lot of them divorce.
Yeah, a good majority of them divorce. And so we spent a lot of time in therapy. I spent a ton of time alone in therapy to kind of understand like the trauma and everything that went on behind it. And it was after those moments that I was like, what am I doing? Like I'm as wonderful as the company is that I was working for, and as much as I loved the teams and the people and the vendors and everything, like I'm not fulfilled by this. I'm not fulfilled by the money or the accolades or the titles, or like I'm moving towards this VP position. And did I really want it? No. I just wanted the title. I just wanted the fatty paycheck that came with it.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't excited about it.
Yeah.
And so literally my whole life changed.
It was like a spiritual awakening almost.
Yeah. And it was like as weird as it sounds, the codependency just dissolved a little bit.
Wow.
It still comes up.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I'm crazy about like analytics and sales plans and all those things. But even this last year, like I'm working through releasing all of that. Yeah. And as long as I'm growing, I'm good.
Right.
So it's a constant peeling back of the layers of the onion to kind of get to the core of the trauma and working through all of it. But I've completely changed my life.
Wow.
In the last few years because of those moments. And I'm so thankful to God for giving me 2 chances. And I'm not going to let those chances go to waste. I'm going to honor the life that I have. I know I've got 2 little babies watching over me right now, and they're watching everything that I do. And so I try to move through life with as much integrity as I possibly can.
Wow.
Knowing I'm going to stumble. I'm going to fall on my face. I'm going to mess up. I'm going to be, a jerk to people on occasion, but I'm going to really try not to be as much as I possibly can.
Wow. Mm-hmm. I had no idea that was so close to when we met.
Yeah.
I'm just like still stuck on that. I cannot believe that.
Yeah.
Have you read the book Spirit Babies?
No. Mm-mm.
I just picked it up yesterday at 4 p.m. Halfway through, I didn't want to go to bed.
Oh, okay. Getting it.
So in the book, it says that there are like a lot of people have spirit, either 1, 2, whatever, babies in the air that want to come down to be with, their people. And he talks about there's 2 spirit babies, at least up until this point, regular spirit babies, and then angel spirit babies. And angel spirit babies are the babies that have complications because it's their first time coming into human form. Whereas other spirit babies, it's like karmic life cycles and like they've been here before and all of the things. So it's like, I'm not new to this, right? Like I've done this before. But angels don't know they need help to figure it out to be able to come earthside. So you had 2 angels.
I do. And you know what's crazy? They actually visit me, and I know that they're visiting me because like after we lost the first baby and then after we lost the second baby, it was crazy. Hummingbirds would literally fly, like no joke, within a foot in front of my face and just like hover there.
And that's like a really hard thing. Like I watched this guy on TikTok who has like feeders like all around, and he'll put a feeder in his mouth just to get a hummingbird to come kind of close, like because they're not like trusting in that way.
No, and it happens all the time. I'll be alone on a hike and they'll be like swirling around my head.
Like, hi, Mom.
It's like the wildest thing ever. So I truly believe those are my little nuggets coming to say hey.
So, okay, you were in therapy and you're like, what the hell am I even doing? Mm-hmm. How did you think, perfume brand named Cayla Gray?
I started my career in fragrance. So I was an assistant buyer of fragrances for a subsidiary of Saks Fifth Avenue.
Wow.
And fell in love with the way that scent made memories tangible. Like I'll never forget like sitting in the beautiful like scent closet. It was like a closet the size of the room just filled with perfumes and colognes. And just every time I would smell a scent, it would bring me back to a moment or a person or a thing. And so I've been obsessed with scent forever. Like I remember my first bottle of perfume when I was 18. It was Marc Jacobs. I still have it. I have the exact bottle. Mm-hmm.
So my first bottle was, because I am like obsessed with smell. Yeah. Not necessarily, well, maybe I guess by virtue of that, I'm obsessed with perfume. But I'm a very particular smell person. And my first perfume, it's usually my mom's perfume that I would just use. But it was Britney Spears. Oh my God, I can't even blank on the name. She came out with like 2, I think at the time. It was the pink bottle with like the green dots on it. Yeah. It was like a pink circle.
Yeah.
And then after, when I got older, I remember a little bit older, like I was still in elementary school. I was on a cheer team, and it was like a co-ed like travel cheer team. Mm-hmm. one of the 8th graders had on a perfume and I was just like, oh, you smell so good. And she was like, it's Jennifer Lopez still.
Oh my, that's a beautiful scent. To this day, that's a really beautiful
You know, the
scent.
only place I can get it from is like Marshall's or.
Oh yeah.
It
they
is.
don't make that anymore.
No, it's Glow. Sorry,
Yeah.
JLo, but hate that.
Yeah. The other one's
still
love
it so much. I was wearing that honestly till college.
Yeah, I helped launch that and
Stop
and
it
all the
right
stores. That
now.
one, the Britney Spears one, and then at the time there was it was the brand with the big apple. Juicy Couture launched at that time. Like there were so many different companies that
perfume
the Sarah
was really
Jessica
big.
Parker one launched then.
I feel like perfume was really big at that time.
Yeah.
Like a big deal when someone came out with a perfume. You were just like, oh, I'm gonna get it.
Yeah.
And then after in my like more college life, like later college, was Marc Jacobs Daisy.
Yeah, that one's that's like one of the top scents.
Really?
Scents now
It's
to this day.
Beautiful. And then post college was Chanel Mademoiselle.
Yep.
I ran out. I gotta get a new one.
Yeah, that one's pretty.
And then now it's been Cayla Gray.
Oh, I love it. But you know, the thing I found so interesting and why I decided to do fragrance was when I found out I was pregnant, I couldn't wear any of the fragrances that I loved. And fragrance is such like an integral part of my identity because there's so many toxins and stuff like that. They recommend that pregnant people don't wear because of all the phthalates and things that are in fragrance. And I was so sad about it. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to start a fragrance line and we're going to call the company Cayla Gray because that was going to be the name of our first baby. I wanted to like honor the loss, but like put beautiful things out into the world. And it was all going to be non-toxic, hypoallergenic, paraben, phthalate free, free from like 1,300 different toxins that are in some of the other traditional fragrances.
I love that. But you know what's so interesting? And I feel like it's beautifully positions you now. And maybe this is because I'm on my like spiritual, holistic journey that I get fed more of this stuff. But the connection between smell and procreation. So like, okay, whatever you're lacking as a female, you will seek that out in a male partner, like health-wise. You'll seek the opposite so that you guys can have a baby that is complete. So people, whatever the scientific thing is, birth control limits that smell from you being able to detect that. So sometimes people will say like, if you're on birth control and you find your soulmate, it might not be like your soulmate because you can't smell appropriately. And so there was a study where this guy has the doctor or the scientist or whatever has a bunch of men wear the same clothes for I don't know however long. Like you can't, no shower, no nothing, same clothes. Then goes to the women and has them smell and choose their partner by the smell. And almost in every single instance, the partner that the woman chose was what she was lacking in her body. That person had more of it.
Like pheromone wise.
Yes.
Kind of. Wow, that's wild.
And the women that just chose whatever were on birth control and they didn't like match up the thing.
Well, they say, hormones has a direct connection to the things that you're smelling. And even when you do end up getting pregnant, like things, your sense of smell completely changes.
My best friend was like, my husband reeked. I couldn't even lay next to him. I was like, I don't know, something must be. I have no idea. So that's beautiful because if you're removing those elements, it can still allow for you to choose your partner.
Yeah, exactly.
But then also it's safe for pregnant women when they're
Yeah, it was a big deal. It just made me sad that, and I know this. I mean, I feel like we all know this innately.
Yeah.
Companies, sell you stuff that's harmful because they can make a couple extra bucks. But I mean, for that, like pregnant people, it was just such a bummer. And I was like, and it didn't need to be that way. Like me, I maybe pay 10% more in margin to make sure that things are cleaner.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah, to me, it's worth it.
Yeah. So what is that like now? So I'm barely wrapping my head around the idea that this was not long ago. I felt like it was longer than that. Maybe because of how I feel like the conversations we have around it feel, I don't know, like not to say that it's not painful, but how you're saying it feels less painful. And it could be like I have some really crazy traumas and I just recite off a script in my mind. And when I recite off the script in my mind, people are like, wow, that happened to you. I'm like, yeah. Like, cause I'm not actually digging for feelings in my heart. So maybe that could have been our interaction. But I'm just like, this was 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
How is that now for you, for mothers who come into the shop and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so excited and I'm buying this perfume because, it's non-toxic and all of the things. What is that? How is that like for you? Do you struggle celebrating? Do you feel like what if?
I think there's a lot of layers to that answer. I would say I get so excited when I'm able to help someone who's having a baby continue to like have a piece of their identity through fragrance. Like that's why I started the company.
Mm-hmm.
So to connect those dots, I think is so exciting and so beautiful.
Yeah.
I think I so excitedly celebrate women that find out that they're having babies because I know in this day and age, it's not that easy anymore.
Yeah.
It's not as easy as it used to be.
Yeah.
I would say there's never been a shortage of excitement or celebration around women, friends or not friends having babies. I think the thing that I struggle with a little bit from time to time is that a lot of women's identity is so wrapped up in being a mom.
Yes.
And sometimes I feel a little bit disconnected or lonely when it comes to like not like feeling a sense of self and feeling strong in my stance that we are not going to be able to have babies. And so that's something that is constantly going to therapy about and having conversations about. But I think that's a societal thing that's placed on us and not necessarily something that I truly feel in my heart.
Yeah.
So again, it goes back to the gut feeling. I always kind of go back to myself and spend time with myself. And it just kind of brings me home to how I really truly feel and believe.
Yeah. So in the Spirit Babies book, in the first chapter, the author talks about how he realized he was a clairvoyant and how God came to him and was like, you're not, or an angel, I believe, you're not going to have babies in this lifetime, but you are going to be a catalyst for other people having babies in this lifetime. And now that you say this, it reminded me not one of the book, but also of what Natalia had shared with you about, I'll let you share that.
Yeah. Yeah. She just said that you were not meant to have babies in this lifetime, but that you had, I think she said 4 babies in a previous lifetime. And that, that is the path and that you should feel confident and that is the path and that you're, the way you utilize your skill sets is going to be in other ways and, like mentoring and all of those different types of things and just being an example for the other type of women that are unable to have babies or choose not to have babies. Because I think they say like 20% of women now are choosing not to have babies of their own. And so to show people that there's beauty in all different walks of life.
Yeah, which is really crazy to think. Like my Nina has always said like there's beauty in tragedy. And I remember like my first like microdose shroom trip, I felt sadness and I was like, but there's beauty in here somewhere. Isn't there beauty in sadness? There's beauty in tragedy. But when you think about this tragedy and the level in which you will have impacted countless lives from this thing is like actually beautiful.
And I think that's the thing that gives me a lot of comfort is the more that I share my story, the more that other women feel comfortable sharing their stories, whether or not they end up having kids or not. But there's a lot of women that struggle with infertility. And the more that I share, the less shame there is around it.
Right.
Which to me is very comforting that it feels like there's a community that can have these conversations a little bit better now than they did when our parents were growing up.
Right. And just to take that a step further, the power of what a conversation can do and then the action that's taken thereafter. So I picture it like a bunch of little seeds that you're planting all over.
Yeah, I feel that.
I am so grateful for this conversation. I feel like I came in here today like, well, we're friends. We already know everything. It's all, but this was like very beautiful.
Yeah.
So thank you for being here today.
Yeah, I love being here.
I love you.
I love you more.